Mr. Jonathan Asake, he is the governorship candidate of the Labour Party in Kaduna State. He joins us virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. We have spoken to other contestants, candidates yesterday about their quest to clinch the #1 seat in Kaduna State, and then following through, as a matter of fact, from how the elections panned out February, the presidential and National Assembly elections. So we'll go through all of that. So tell us, at the moment, because in fact, yesterday, we also did take up this matter with the PDP candidate about the question of whether or not Labour and the PDP have this alliance. Is there any such conversation as to Labour Party stepping down for the PDP, because the news was awash with everything, even though your commentary is out there for everybody to see. But that narrative, that perspective just won't go away. So could you tell us, because now we understand that there are some PDP members in Southern Kaduna, your particular area, who want you to step down.
Thank you and good morning. It is true that the whole news went viral, that I, as the gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party in Kaduna State, have stepped down for the PDP candidate, and that my party, the Labour Party, is in alliance with the PDP. I have come on air and debunk that. My party has done the same, and other organs of the party have done the same. I want to clarify it here, that there is no such time that either myself or my campaign organization or the Labour Party in Kaduna State or even nationally have had any discussion with any political party, not only the PDP, but any political party, including the PDP, that we are going on alliance.
Okay.
I believe that was just a orchestrated propaganda to discourage our supporters and dampen their spirit, ahead of the gubernatorial election. And I could see that generally the PDP, which prides itself of having their strong support base in the southern part of Kaduna State, has seen clearly that they have lost that support base with the emergence of the Labour Party and my candidature in that part of the state.
So let's stretch it a little further, Mr. Asake. When you say that they lost their base or they lost that support base, if you look at the results that came through, PDP won all the senatorial seats in Kaduna, and then they won 10 seats in the House of Reps. APC got 4, Labour Party has 2. So who's stronger? Doesn't that indicate that PDP may have, from these results, they had a way better showing than Labour?
But we check the general results. You check. I'm talking about Southern Kaduna here. And before this time, from 1999 all the way up to 2015, if you check the results, all the PDP governors that have emerged, starting from Governor Makarfi, who had 8 years, and Governor Namadi, who took after him and had only about 2 years thereabout before he was uplifted to become vice president, and Governor Yekua, who also won, and up to the time the APC took over. The PDP always harvested its winning votes from the southern part of the state. And so that part of the state has become the part that gives the PDP block votes to win. And from 2015 also up to today, it still produces the block votes. You may recall that in 2019, the presidential candidate of the PDP then, Vice President Atiku Abubakar, scored the highest votes, about 800,000 in Kaduna State, all over the nation. Kaduna got the highest votes for him, courtesy Southern Kaduna. So that is the part of the state that produces the block votes for the PDP. So with the emergence of the Labour Party, that equation began to change. So if you check the last presidential and National Assembly elections, you will see that that part still produced. We won in the Southern Central District clearly for the presidential election. 6 out of the 8 local governments, and in the Central, we won 2. And so you will see that the performance in the southern part of the state was still, the best, out of all the parties that participated in that election. So seeing that and seeing that the permutations for the presidential and National Assembly election is different from the one for the governorship.
Okay, so
the PPP, I believe, became jittery and became unsettled, and so resorted to this kind of a very cheap propaganda.
All right, so what do you say to those who think, first, they thought that your entrance into the race was late, they thought it was an afterthought on your part, and then what would it then profit Labour if you get the votes in the southern part and you don't get in the other 2 parts? And because at the end of the day, you will just probably harvest the votes from the south, PDP gets some, and then APC and their supporters will go ahead and just march straight into government house because PDP and Labour Party have split their votes.
That is a fallacy. That is a lie that is being sold out to the public. My emergence as a candidate was never just a sudden emergence, as it is being said. If you look at the whole scenario, the emergence of the Labour Party generally and the national landscape, became a child of necessity. Seeing the frustration Nigerians went through, when they were expecting a change after the 8 years of the tortuous APC rule, they found out that the whole primaries, both parties, the APC and the PDP, was characterized by the use of huge money, dollars to be precise. In fact, we did a rough calculation. Each delegate in the convention, the presidential convention, each delegate, went away with about 16 million naira, if you convert it from dollars, because it was dollars that were shared. So Nigerians felt, well, thank God that Mr. Peter Obi pulled out of that and didn't want to go into a context that will be characterized by the huge use of money to induce delegates. And then if he's thrown up through that process, then he will lack the moral right and moral capacity to fight corruption, which actually has become the cancer of the nation. And so he pulled out, and then he went into the Labour Party, the party that was formed by the Nigerian workers, the Nigerian masses. And it became like a divine blow and became equal to the mega parties. And Nigerians accepted it. And his messages were clear all over the nation. The messages of hope, x-raying the problems of the nation, talking to people in town hall meetings, going around the country, and everybody keying into it, both inside the country and outside the country, and profiling solutions, what he can do. That his messages were different from other candidates. And so some of us in the states keyed into it, and we were given similar messages across the state. So in my own campaigning, we, myself and my deputy, Right Honorable Bashir Zangong Aya, who comes from the northern part of the state, a former majority leader of the House of Assembly, former commissioner of works, a grassroots politician. So we set our machinery of campaign. We went around, we had town hall meetings, we engaged groups and individuals, and we campaigned across the 23 local governments of the state. We campaigned across the 255 wards, and we find out that basically people of Kaduna State are tired, they are ready to change the system, not the PDP, not the APC. They wanted a party and leaders that will bring hope to them. And so the expression, the mood all over the state is the same. And so the PDP is aware of it. And so it is not true that APC will have a free walk to Government House. APC is not even in the equation. It is PDP versus a Labour Party. And the PDP, which believes that they can only beat the APC and the NNPP in the northern part by using the block votes from the southern part, now find out that Labour Party has taken over the southern part. So where else do they go? They have to go and compete with the APC and then the NNPP and the PRP, and now even the ADP in the northern part. And so that became the difficult thing for them. And so they resorted to this cheap blackmail and campaign of calumny and so on against the Labour Party. But I can assure you that supporters of the Labour Party and we in the Labour Party reviewed the last elections of the 25th of February, and we saw what the lapses were, very obvious lapses. We thought in our church mind that the whole thing about beavers and direct electronic transmission of results was actually true, but we found out that it was not really true. It was not really the case. There were serious irregularities in many parts, and the Labour Party, we had the lapses of not having our agents in every place because of certain challenges. So we have put some of those things in place and ready to face the next election. And so it is the story on the ground.
Well, we'll look to see how that would, materialize or how it would play out on the 18th. But I am just wondering, because you have just said now that indeed Labour Party is very strong in Southern Kaduna, and I do know that you were former president of the Southern Kaduna People's Union, SOCAPO, which has been asking for certain things over a period of time. I'm just wondering, how do you intend to reach out to other, I think my colleague already asked that somehow, but how do you intend to reach out to other people who might think that Labour Party is a Southern Kaduna People's agenda?
Labour Party is never a Southern Kaduna People's agenda. That is what I just said. It is an expression of hope for people that felt they have been left out. I just said it here, that we have campaigned across the local governments. And indeed, the teeming masses in all the local governments feel that they have been left out. If you look at the policies of the APC in the state, in the last 7 years, getting to 8 years now, you will see that teachers and civil servants were just sacked, in their thousands, 21,000 teachers, and most of them were not paid their entitlements. And many of them have died, and many of their families have continued to suffer, pulling their widows, pulling their children out of school. And school fees were increased by in tertiary institutions by over 300%. And most of those students in schools, their parents cannot cope, and they are now staying out of school. And you can only tell what that has to do with the insecurity. They become a recruiting ground for criminals, bandits, and kidnappers, and what have you. And of course, businesses have been demolished. Business premises have been demolished without providing alternatives. And because of that, small businesses have relocated out of the state to other neighboring states or to outside the country. Investors have permanently stayed out of the state, and you will see even the level of insecurity. Kaduna State has become the epicenter of insecurity, kidnappings. You can recall billions of naira that have been extorted from poor parents, and so on and so forth. So people generally are in a state of dissatisfaction.
If I could follow up on that, pardon me, Mr. Asake, because of time. It was an issue that featured prominently in our conversation with the other candidates yesterday, this issue of security, which you're talking about. And I'd like to know what your approach will be, or what you plan to do if you're elected governor. I mean, speaking to the APC's candidate, the PDP's candidate, they kind of differed on the approach to banditry particularly, which is not just affecting Kaduna State. We've seen it affect, other adjoining states, even the FCT and all of that. You were referring to just some of those cases now. So what will the approach be? We know that the current governor says, well, those areas, those forests should be bombarded. Yes, collateral damage will happen, but he believes that it's better to just bombard those areas. The PDP candidates believes that, well, these bandits are humans. How about you have like some sort of maybe a sit down and all of that? What will be your approach, Mr. Asake?
The first approach, I've always said it publicly, that any leader at any level must have the will, the political will, to address a situation. And if we come in, that political will is there already. Because having served as a SOCAPU president, I know the problem of insecurity, the way insecurity has wrecked the entire state and has stopped virtually everything from moving forward. And so the first thing, if you remember when the Bethel Academy students were kidnapped, sometimes in April last year, the first thing that those kidnappers demanded was to demand for food items, bags of rice, vegetable oil, and other essential commodities. Those things were ferried to them in the forest. And with the present technology that we have of tracking devices, simple tracking devices that we put in our cars, it is not that these are not known, their locations are not known. These things were supplied to them in the forest. Who carried these things? And oftentimes they collect money in hundreds of millions. For instance, the 28th of March train passengers kidnapped. Only 8 of those family members coughed out over 900 million naira. Where did that money go to? Our intelligence agencies and financial crime agencies, can track that money. That money finds its way into the banks. And when it finds its way into the banks, it is either some of those banks know where the money is coming from, the sources, or the sponsors. And so the government must have a will. So truly the start is to network.
All right.
Is to collaborate
with
intelligence and agencies,
right.
to track down such where funds are going to.
Okay, pardon me. So you can land on that point. We're less than a minute away, or in fact 30 seconds away from break. But you can land on that point. And I want you to be specific. Would you be negotiating, or would you be approaching maybe the way the current governor says, let's approach them, just bombard those areas? What would be your own approach as we wind down?
Well, negotiation will come in. It depends on the most expedient thing that we find on the table. If it is to negotiate, but first of all is to implement the way of fighting these terrorists and these criminals, and ensure that they are exposed, particularly their sponsors. They are publicly exposed and brought to book. And once that is done, is to cut off their source. And then, so it's not about negotiation. It's about getting the root